Hey everyone, I'm Grant and welcome back to the channel. In my last video, I started delifting my left-hand drive TJ Wrangler, but I had to stop when I ran into a problem with reconnecting the track bar. Little did I know ordering an adjustable track bar would be its own headache, mainly because I kept being shipped the wrong parts, including ordering a rear adjustable track bar and receiving a front adjustable track bar. So that has been fun and hence the delay for this video. But with that said, I finally have one. I think it's going to work. The only thing that I'm not thrilled with is the website I ordered it from clearly says it is good for a 0 to 6 inch lift. I am putting the stock suspension back in it. However, when I got it and opened it up, it says it's for a 2 to 6 inch lift. So, not sure if this is going to work, but we're going to find out. After struggling with other track bars and trying to get it hooked up to this Dana 35 axle, which, by the way, I am going to be replacing very soon because a Dana 35 is a ticking time bomb in my opinion. But I want to go ahead and get the Wrangler back on the road, so I got this rough country adjustable track bar. Thankfully, it did work with a 0 to 6 inch lift, which I was grateful for. Once I had the track bar bolted up, I will fully admit I kind of skipped ahead and reassembled the passenger side of the vehicle. So here I'm reconnecting the shock to the rear axle. And one of the things I realized in reviewing all this footage, I forgot to hook up the end link. So I will need to go back and do that at some point. So with almost everything put back together on the rear end of my Jeep, I reinstalled my wheels and tires off of my right-hand drive TJ, and then I jacked up the rear axle so I could remove the jack stands and finally see the TJ on the ground completely delifted. My left-hand drive TJ is back on its factory coil springs, and I could not be happier. I really do like the way this looks. However, I need to adjust both the rear and front track bar. I took a really educated guess on the rear track bar, and it's close. It's not off by that much, but I need to jack up the rear end and adjust it. You need to do the same thing with the front end. But anyway, I'm going to reset up the camera. I'm going to push the Jeep back forward, and I pushed it forward and backward off camera because then everything kind of centers, and I wanted to see where everything was at. And we'll get back to trying to center both the rear and front axle. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with my camera. I turn on time lapse, I can see it taking photos, and I'll stop it, and the footage just disappears. But anyway, I'm going to flip the camera and show you what I've done so far. So I've only done the rear, but if I hold the camera here, you can see how the tire is just barely outside the fender flare. And if I come over here, you kind of see the same thing. It's very close. Close enough that I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to call it good. So I'm now going to push the Wrangler backwards to give me more room up front. I'm going to jack up the front end, put the jack stands on the frame so I can let the axle drop. And I'm going to try to really fix how centered the front axle is. And I'm going to make sure time-lapse is actually working this time. Once I ensured time-lapse was actually working, I started the process of lifting the front end of the Jeep in the air and securing it on jack stands on the frame. Now, I did have to remove the wheels and tires so I could drop the axle all the way, but that's when I started running into some minor hiccups. I really thought I was going to be able to disconnect the track bar at the axle and rotate it to get it recentered, but because of the kinks and bends in the track bar, I just didn't have enough room around the other steering components to make that happen. Thankfully, I was able to get the track bar to drop away from the frame using 2 hammers to bang the bracket holding the track bar. From there, it was a lot of back and forth, which I don't show on camera, of adjusting the track bar, re-hooking it up, and checking the alignment. And I ended up doing this several times. Great example, as I'm putting the wheels and tires back on, I go to lower the vehicle down and I notice immediately the axle is still not centered correctly. All right. I have the tire a little bit better, but it is still, actually no, it's not better. It's still way off. And now this one's towed out, which actually makes sense because it had a lift kit and bigger tires. So once I figure out this alignment issue, which is becoming more of a pain than I thought it would be, I then have to fix the toe. All right, back to work. Want to show this real quick, and I wish I had done this before I made all these changes. It would have been a lot better. I adjusted this tie rod into the track bar quite a bit. Originally, it was like this far out, and now the axle is pretty centered. Also had to remove this tie rod in. This is the tie rod itself, because this wheel was kind of out like that. I'm going to get alignment this coming week. And then I also removed this tie rod in from the steering box because my steering wheel had turned 90 degrees when I removed the lift kit. So those were the components that I interacted with. And when I put them all back, I put all brand new cotter pins in them as well. Delifting this Wrangler took way longer than I had initially estimated. I thought I'd be able to get it done over a couple of nights over the course of a week. I've now been doing this on and off for about 3 weeks, but I'm really happy with where I'm at. The only thing I have left to do are actually 2 things. I need to bleed the brake system, which I'm going to do once I can get someone out to my house to help me do it. And I need to get a front end alignment. I got the front wheels somewhat close, but there's a local shop here that has a computer laser alignment tool, and it's like 40 or 50 bucks. So I'm just going to go support a small business and get them to align it. But I'm really happy with how my left-hand drive TJ Wrangler is looking. And I'm really excited to get it on the road and see how it now rides with the Fox 2.0 shocks and the original coil springs back in it. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you sometime soon. Goodbye.